Can the ACC pull a rabbit out of the hat again? That's what it took to get two teams into the playoff last year, and that's kind of what it'll take to get two teams into the playoff next year. Kenton Gibbs of Locked On ACC still joining me here on the show, because what you essentially need when you are the Big 12 or ACC to get two teams in, you need an 11-1 team that loses a conference championship, and that's basically it. The other team's record can be anything, but you need an 11-plus win team in your conference championship game to lose. And Clemson, at 10-3, if they weren't a conference champion, would not have gotten in. 10-2, ACC, Miami didn't even get half of a look. They and BYU were completely disregarded while we debated the merits of 9-3 Alabama, 9-3 Ole Miss, and 9-3 South Carolina. They weren't in the running. I don't think that's changing all of a sudden from one year to the next in college football. And when I look at these schedules, Kenton, Louisville's schedule is brutal down the stretch. They have to play all three of Clemson, SMU, and Miami. Two of those games, by the way, are on the road. We talked about Miami's schedule being brutal. Clemson opens with LSU. I mean, that game alone could decide whether the ACC gets two teams in. I think this is going to be an even bigger struggle next year.
I could see it, but I disagree. And let me tell you why I disagree. I'm looking at this thing like this. Clemson, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think they're going to whoop the wheels off LSU. I don't trust Brian Kelly. I have
couple of veteran quarterbacks.
I've never trusted Brian Kelly. And every time I say I don't trust him, he proves me right. Every single time. Don't worry, Brian. I know you. I've always known you from back in your Central Michigan days. I know how this is going to end. Moving right along there. Clemson is poised to be very special this year. They are a team that their Achilles heel last year was their passing game. Well, last time I checked, Cade Klubnik ain't getting no younger or worse. Wesco ain't getting no younger or worse. Williams ain't getting no younger or worse. They are looking at a situation where most of their top pass catchers from last year coming back. Most of those guys are going to be expected to take a step forward. And Dabo, yes, that's right, Dabo Swinney jumped in the portal and got a pass catcher. Hold on, Trap. So with that being said, I expect Clemson to be special. I think they're a foregone conclusion to make it. Now, we already talked about how brutal Miami's schedule is. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. No way around that. You talked about Louisville's schedule also being a bit of a, murderous row in terms of ACC terms. I see it this way. Either them or SMU will get it done. And I'm telling you why. There are two things that always, always, always travel. A run game and a defense. And you know what I know Louisville's going to be bringing next year? A run game and the defense. That's going to be going with them everywhere they go. And if they have a quarterback that does not beat them, if they have a quarterback that's just a guy that they can win with, right? Nothing too special. They have one of the best freshman running back duos in the nation last year. Two guys extremely young, getting it done at very high levels. And you're telling me that you're bringing those two back. You're bringing Isaac Brown and Duke Watson back, and I'm supposed to believe that those two and this team are somehow supposed to get worse? No. They've got some tough games on the road. I'm not saying they got an easy road. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's very possible. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the Brown brothers, they're quarterback whisperers for real. Mm-hmm. They don't just have that type. They took Jack Plummer. Jack Plummer looked stank, and stunk before he got to Louisville and made him look like he could run a respectable offense. So I think they'll be just fine, and I think that those are the two that the ACC gets into the playoff.
There are two games on Clemson's schedule against the SEC. They barely lost.
The big SEC lobby trying to silence you. That's what it is. Don't worry. We do the knowledge on Locked On College Football. You say, Spencer. I got you.
They open with LSU on August 30th. They close at South Carolina. I mean, yikes, Kenton. You have to split minimum in those games, as we discussed, because if you have two losses, even if LSU goes 9-3 and South Carolina goes 10-2, I don't think Clemson in the ACC will get the respect, even if they win all 10 of their other games, that they would probably deserve at that point in time, because there is this perception, whether you like it or not. I think there's some, but not all validity to it, that playing in the Big 12 or the ACC, it is a lot easier than playing in the Big 10 or the SEC. And frankly, after bowl season, Kenton, the perception of the ACC is incredibly weak. After having a solid year where they get two teams in the playoff, but they get blown, or not, well, SMU gets blown out, Clemson just loses. Those things were kind of supposed to happen, but with all that transpiring, Clemson cannot avoid a loss to one of those SEC teams and still find their way as an at-large bid to the college football playoff. Because as we said, it's probably got to be 11-1, and that's a high threshold, and SMU did it this past year, but SMU's schedule is significantly tougher next year, and Clemson's schedule isn't easy, and Louisville, and you just keep going down the list, and the ACC is playing Notre Dame as often as they can. Guess what? Notre Dame's going to have a new starting quarterback, but they're going to be good. They're going to be really good, and they're going to hand the ACC some tough losses.
I find it so interesting that we bring up the playoffs when it comes to the ACC and never when it comes to the SEC. Why not? What was the SEC's combined record in the playoff last year? Was it 1-3?
Okay. That's a separate discussion about.
We're talking about. I think that it's not necessarily fair to the ACC that we get held to our worst moments. Anytime the ACC looks bad, oh boy, the ACC had a tough bowl season. They stink now. But when the SEC had a horrible bowl season a couple of years ago, it was, well, all of their players are opting out.
The SEC just had a terrible bowl season, by the way.
That's my point.
Right. They just had a terrible bowl season. What I'm saying is that the way the deciding parties in college football are looking at the conference is through this particular lens. That doesn't mean I believe it should be that way, because there were people saying 9-3 Alabama should have gotten into the playoff over 11-2 SMU. I said, you are either high or having a stroke, and I don't want to live in a world where that is the case, where we have just nullified the importance of a great season. And lo and behold, the committee did get that right. I still worry in the back of my mind, though, Kenton, that, a 10-3 ACC would probably get overlooked. Like if you go 10-2 in the regular season, make the conference championship game, lose 10-3, I think you're going to get overlooked for a 9-3.
And here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, and I don't think that that's your sentiment, Spencer. I know you. Okay. You know ball. We're good there. I want the fans to know that this is not – we're not playing those games. I've read the comments. I've heard people talk about your show. I love your show, Spencer, but I know a lot of people think you're pro SEC. And I'm going to tell you right now, as long as I'm on this show, we peeling back the layers of that propaganda. Don't tell me about how many of the last 20 championships. Is Cam Newton walking through that damn door? No, he's a podcaster now, okay? So this is not – don't tell me about what him and Nick Fairley and Philip Lustigkirk, and God rest his soul, he's a wonderful player, even better man by all accounts, did. They're not coming back. So what I'm saying is, again, you and me agree on this, but everybody doesn't. I don't want to hear about the past. I don't want to hear about, the ACC had a bad bowl season. If the SEC did as well, but for them it's, players opt now, da-da-da. Now, with that, back to your original point here, if we talk about, hey, the schedules are tough, what happens and how does the ACC get 2 in? I 1,000% agree with you that it is most likely going to be that case, that you need an 11 win and a conference champion. Should it be the case? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have seen firsthand what these teams look like when they're put up to the test of scrutiny. We have seen firsthand, that LSU team, you can't, they're them boys in the bayou. They're going to sling it around. They're going to be great. USC beat them. What are we doing here? Bama, they might, Granny, I know you're going to be watching this. I'm sorry in advance, Granny. Bama stunk against teams that they had 21-point spread, 14-point spread, I believe it was 18-point spreads against. All spreads of double digits, comfortably, lost all of them, could barely score against Oklahoma. Congratulations, if you're watching this show right now, between you, me, and Spencer, there are as many people as there were points Alabama scored in that game. So don't tell me about what, all that is. The ACC should not have to go that well and have a team go undefeated or a conference champion of 12 wins and an 11-win team to get 2 in. But that's just the nature of the beast. and that's what it's going to end up being. So you and I both agree that's what they're going to need, even though they shouldn't. That's my argument. They shouldn't need that, even though they will.